purpose and express gratitude at once. As we approach the close of this two-day virtual conference on professionalism in English language teaching, concepts, applications, and implications, I now request Dr. Andy Karunya Martin, Assistant Professor of the Department of English, to pray as we begin the validation. Please, Mike.
Gracious and Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for all you do, God. Thank you for the gift of life, for God, and for what you are. And Lord, thank you, Lord, for helping us to come to the last session of this two-day international conference on professional unity of God. Thank you, Lord, for helping us to feel your grace in all of these sessions, and we seek your presence and guidance, God, throughout this validatory program also. We thank you, Lord, for the resource person, Dr. Aditya Banshi, who has joined from Oman, God. Lord, thank you. And the Lord Jesus and all the delegates, God, who has joined from different parts of the world to have proper network connection and give us the concentration that is required of God and help us to get food for thought of God. And as we see the end of this conference of God, help us to evolve as professionals of God in ELT. And we thank you, Lord, for the management of the Shiva. Thank you, Lord, for Vice Principal. And for all the guidance and support, and bless the organizing secretary and the head of the Department of English of God, Dr. Shobana ma'am. Thank you for all the efforts you have taken. And help each one of us, for God, to reap the fruits of the labor of God for the planning and execution of this international conference. And help us to feel your presence every second of God. And may your name alone be glorified through this venture. We ask this in the precious name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, ma'am, for your mighty prayer. The fruition of any academic endeavor is felt as we begin to dig deeper and start to explore avenues possible for research in the concepts that we have learned. May I now call forward Keeper's best researcher, Dr. Suresh Reddy sir, UG Head of the Department of English and Dean of Research and Development, to welcome the gathering.
Respected Vice Principal sir, revered Chief Guest and main speaker of this validation function, learned Head of the Department, beloved colleagues, and my dear students. Good afternoon, everyone. I've been assigned the pleasant task of welcome you all to this validation function. First of all, I wish to welcome our principal Anastasia, as that is the tradition of the department. I also wish to welcome the vice principal. We all know that he is a man of few words and stern action. He's always he has a place in his heart for our department. Whenever we go to his place, he says yes to all our requests. Thank you, sir. We welcome you to this program. At this juncture, I wish to welcome our head of department, who we all know that she is the initiator of this program, and as rightly pointed out by our Evening College coordinator, that is her dream project. Welcome, Dr. Sharma. It is a pleasant duty to welcome the speaker of this day, Dr. Khadija Al-Balush. She is an academic program senior specialist at the Ministry of Higher Education, Research and Innovation. She holds BA and MA in TESOL from the University of Leeds, UK. MSc in Education Research and PhD in Education from the University of Exeter, UK. When I just searched, Googled, and I was able to find out the title of her thesis, they feel that they have a voice, and the voice is heard. I repeat, they feel that they have a voice, and their voice is heard towards participatory forms of teachers, CED women. This was done in the year 2017. She concludes like this. In the abstract part, I was able to notice, therefore, recommendations include the need for more informal, participatory, and collaboratory forms of CPD to the added to the current CPD system in women. Most significantly, on the basis of the study findings, there is a need to reform teachers' CPD in women to include dedication to building character, community, humanitarianism, and democracy in young people. It's a very, very comprehensive study. Even though this is supposed to be an education, that too, studying a system. I found that even in the first talk itself, we were able to understand that the system was scrutinized in a very, very positive way by the first speaker. And this is also in a similar way. And she has published many articles. One such article is effectiveness of brain-based learning for grade 8 students, direct and postponed retention in science. We call this delayed post-test. She has done post-test as well as delayed post-test on retention. There are many articles, and almost all of them are Scopus index. I'm really happy to see this because I'm being part of the research and development deanery. It is heartening to see the person publishing in Scopus. And especially this topic today, she's going to talk on action research. So when I thought of this topic, action research, my mentor, Dr. Rukumar Balasingh, came to my mind. In the year 2008, I visited Malaysia for my paper presentation in Melbourne. After my presentation, I spoke to Dr. R.K. sir, fondly called as R.K. sir. He said there is a difference between teaching ELT and research in ELT. So, totally different two areas. And this is where we need to understand that action research is very, very important. That is research. Only if you're able to bring in action into ELT, you can find fruits. But also, we can see that only if you're able to document it, it will be of great help. Many years back, I visited Thailand for a paper presentation. One professor from NIT presented a paper, just a simple paper. Her interaction with BTech students teaching English, that's all. But in that particular conference, TESOL conference, they appreciated it like her anything because that happens to be an action research. So here we are having an expert. Ma'am, we are really happy to welcome you to this validation function. We expect you to tell us how to do action research, modalities, and your experience. Can you share your experience? Welcome, ma'am. Welcome. Of course, without our students, no conference. Without research scholars, no conference. Of course, our beloved teachers. I can see many of our teachers, the right-minded, people who are willing to work for the department, willing to do something for the department. See all of you. I welcome you all to this validation function. Once again, I welcome you all. Thank you very much.
start. He stands back and guides his course, with no credit taken on him. He is always there, leading our college towards better. Yes, you get it. We are privileged to have amidst us here the Vice Principal of our college, Dr. Alagappa Moses. I kindly request her to present the presidential address to the congregation.
Respected head of the Department of English, Shobna, Dean of Research, and the UG Group, Suresh Director, and all the members of the organization of this first international conference on professionalism and teaching, concepts, applications, and implications. I congratulate the organizing committee for thoughtfully selecting appropriate guests and researchers to discuss on various topics. So, professionalism in English, as well as digital anxieties and the action research. I'm sure the participants, the students, researchers, scholars are benefited by the inputs received from all these eminent personalities. And as the welcome note, Dr. Suresh said, the actual research and the contributions of Dr. Kajija and the research of she did in the Sultan at home is more on the participatory method and action oriented research. So if you look at the kind of the success stories of the participatory methods, you will find in many of the domains, maybe the social work field, and also in the field of the environment and the other areas. So you find the participatory appraisal is one of the aspects which has been implemented in late 90s. Since then onwards, the participatory appraisal in every discipline has come in, and then people started working on this and modified and changed, and they started refining the methodologies of this participatory appraisal. They may call it as a participatory rural appraisal, or it depends on the domain in which you are going to work with, and you're going to make yourself comfortable with the area of your investigation. In terms of the action research, I would recall the contributions of Calvin Lewin, one of the professors in the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He always, he's a biologist, he used to conduct his research in his own lake, which is in his backyard. So he tried to simulate the model of the land and pond and tried to make each and every one of the findings of Henry Davis, and then try to make the students understand what's happening in the pond, which is backward in Wisconsin-Madison. So the Calvin Lewin is in the university, is right now in Michigan, stays there, and it was part of the Ensemble Institute of Environmental Studies. And it was Professor Swamiraj who brought him here to our campus and introduced Calvin to our campus, and many of the professors from here we had a good exchange, and even till yesterday, until last year, we had some fruitful interactions and discussions with these university people. And that's the kind of the action research that is expected. So, about the valent pond and what is happening there, and he has simulated everything within the pond that was there in his own backyard. And that has enabled me to make a lot of research in the Great Lakes of the United States. So therefore, this virtual conference on professionalism, the English language teaching, I'm sure that will enable you to be more informed about the recent developments. And as Dr. Suresh said, Professor Rup Kumar Wallasing, and all your senior professors, those who serve in this department, they have shown their own professionalism in their own teaching. So you should always, try to get such experiences whenever it's being shared by your faculty like Dr. Shobna or Suresh, so that will enable you to become the kind of the person who is professional in English language teaching. So I congratulate you for this conference, and I wish all the very best for each and every one of you. And I appreciate the interest shown by all those who are connected in this program. And thanks to Dr. Shobna and Suresh Reddy for the opportunity. Thank you very much, and wish you all the very best.
Thank you very much, sir. It is the hour of the day we've all been waiting for. We have Dr. Khadija Al-Balushi, who is going to enlighten us on the topic, Teachers as Professional Practitioners Through Action Research. She works with the Ministry of Higher Education, Sultanate of Oman, as an academic program senior specialist in research and innovation. She holds a BA and an MA in TESOL from the University of Leeds, United Kingdom, and an MSc in Educational Research and PhD in Education from University of Exeter, UK. She has a wealth of expertise in ELT, both at schooling and tertiary level, as well as research in ELT. During his medical address, the Dean of Research and Development, Dr. Suresh Reddy sir, highlighted how Dr. Khadija's research experience can help us steer towards fruition of this conference. So without further ado, may I now hand the floor over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm just checking. Let me know if the presentation is okay. So thank you very much for the introduction. Yes, we are going to focus today on action research, but we'll be connecting action research to how it adds to the professionalism of teachers, and how teachers can become really professional practitioners when they participate in doing action research. And action research is, of course, one of the ways that help teachers to become professional practitioners, but it's one of the key, we could say, ways that help teachers to be really reflective practitioners, and it positively affects their professionalism in the teaching job. So this is the focus of today's session. We are going to focus, we will start by giving a definition on action research. Then we will move into action research models, its methodology, how it can be carried out. Moving into how can we plan for action research, and how different is action research from other types of research. What value it can add to teachers, actually. This will all be discussed through today's session, inshallah. So first of all, we will start with giving you those definitions of action research. While you will be reading with me, I want you to focus on the key concepts that are repeated in each definition. So starting with this one from Robson, it's a special form of research that is located in the real life, in the real world, and underline real world, because when we talk about teachers, where do they do their research? They do it in their classrooms with their students. So in the real teaching context, they are doing it. Action research is about improving learning, according to McNuff, and actually improving learning and improving practice is a key term that is repeated when we talk about action research. Why? Because teachers are investigating their own practice, and they're investigating it to contribute to changing it, to improving it. And the key aim behind that is, of course, improving students' learning, improving their students' learning. Action research empowers practitioners to investigate and improve their practice, according to Hendricks. It empowers me as a practitioner, as a teacher educator, to investigate issues that concerns me, that I want to find solutions for, And of course, it will lead me to improve my practice or the practice of my institution. In action research, knowledge is related to personal practice. So as a person doing action research individually, or as a group of practitioners, group of teachers doing action research collaboratively together, knowledge is related to our own personal practice and it adds to us. That's why it prepares us. It helps us to be really professional practitioners, to the professionalism. So two key concepts, two key areas. It's done by practitioners, teachers, teacher educators, can be done by any types of practitioner, but since we are talking about education and practice, for us, the practitioners are the teachers. So it's done by us, by teachers, by teacher educators, by teachers with their students. So it's done by practitioners. And the most important thing is action research leads to improved learning and improved practice. And we will discuss how that can be, how action research can help in that. Now, action research as a model, according to the literature, it's a spiral process. We cannot say that we start action research at a specific stage and we end it at a specific stage, like other types of research. No, in action research, for example, as you can see this model from Kamis and McTaggart that is cited in Barnes, teachers start with reflecting on their practice. Let's say, as a teacher, I'm an English teacher, and I teach, I work at the Ministry of Higher Education, but I also teach in a higher educational institution. So when I teach my English students research, for example, I teach research. When I teach them research, and I noticed in one of the incidents that, come on, my students are not able to, for example, write in English lesson, to write properly. So I start reflecting, okay, so where is the problem exactly? Why my students are not writing a critical, let's say, for example, piece of writing? So from that reflection, I start planning for my action research. Oh, come on, I have to do a plan to investigate the problem, to try to find solutions for my problem. And through planning, I start having an action plan, an intervention plan. I want to intervene to change the current situation. Why my students are not writing a critical piece of writing when I ask them to write their, let's say, their research papers? So I plan out some interventions, some ways to help those students to improve in their critical writing. And while I apply those actions, which are different, those techniques, those strategies are different from the normal ways I use, I observe, I look at my students' new pieces of writing. Are there any changes according to the new ways of teaching that I used? And when I observe students, I reflect again on the new ways that I used in my teaching. And through that reflection, I can say, oh, come on, my students are improving, but improving a little bit. So I plan again another way, another strategy to help them be more critical, and so on. So it's a spiral process, according to Kamis and McTaggart. And in the literature, the action research journey is different from the other types of research, is that you only stop when you feel satisfied that the problem is resolved. Otherwise, you keep the process of reflection, planning, action, observation, according to Kamis and McTaggart. This is another model from Lewin. And according to Lewin, a teacher starts by identifying a general idea or initial idea. So in my case, the idea was my students have problems in writing, in critical writing. So I start finding facts. How? By reading the literature. I start consulting the literature. Okay, what about other contexts or other students in my context? What did research say about this? So I start consulting the literature. I read, I try to see in the literature. So what ways teachers use to, what strategies teachers use to improve their students' writing, to improve their students to become critical writing, and so on. So I start planning my ways, my new strategies that I will apply to help those students to improve in their critical writing. So I start applying the first action, the first step, as you can see according to Lewin's model. I apply it with my students. And when I apply this new strategy, I observe myself while doing it. I observe my students. So I evaluate it. I reflect on it, evaluate it. And according to the evaluation, oh, okay, I am happy a little bit. My students started understanding the idea of criticality, becoming critical when they write, but still they are not writing critically. So I amend my plan. I start another strategy by this time I will give my students a piece of reading and I will ask them, for example, to read it and summarize it and use its ideas in their writing. So I amended my first plan. I take the second plan through using this reading and so on. So again, according to Lewin, once you take your second step, you evaluate it, you amend it, you go to your third one. When you feel happy and satisfied, you stop. It might be 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, 10 steps, but it is a process and it's you as a researcher who decide when to stop, when you feel that you are satisfied and your students really achieved what you are looking for from this research. I was looking for my students to improve their critical writing. So after applying 2 strategies with them, 3 strategies, 4 strategies, 5, 6 strategies, I don't know, whatever number, I feel satisfied. Plus, my students now are writing critically, so I am happy. So that's where I stop. But again, in Lewin's model, similar to previous Kemsa and McTaggart's model, it is a spiral process. This is BACHMAN'S model. This is BACHMAN's cycle, action research cycle. And as you can see, again, we start with reflection, planning, observation, action, or planning, observation, action, reflection. And again, you redo the plan. Again, observation, action, reflection, planning, observation, action, and so on. So it is, again, a spiral process. So this is like a summary. There are many other models you will find in the literature, actually, but I mean, I just chose some of them. For me, Kemsa and McTaggart's one, which you can see here at the down in the slide, reflection, planning, action, and observation, is a key that I always refer to when I teach my students. I always teach English teachers, by the way, who are teaching, who already have their degree in ALT. And we teach them action research. We teach them how to do action research. We give them a whole course of 120 hours. We start by teaching them how to start choosing a topic for their action research, developing their research questions, moving to their methodology, then their literature review, methodology, data collection, data analysis, till they write their research report. And then we encourage those teachers also to publish their research papers. But as a methodology of action research, it starts with identifying a problem. For me, as a practitioner, as a teacher educator, whomever practitioner am I start with identifying a problem that I face, or we, a group of teachers, face. Let's say we are a group of English teachers in a specific college facing this problem. So we can do collaboratively research with our students. So we start with identifying a problem, either individually or a group of practitioners, devise our plan by consulting the literature, our expertise, our experienced colleagues, and so on. So we devise our plan accordingly. We start acting and implementing our plan. We start implementing the first action in our plan. We observe it, observe the intervention that we put, the new strategy that we worked on. We collect and analyze data about this first step, this action. We reflect on it. We share it with our colleagues. Are we happy? Yes, happy. We stop. We are not happy. We redevise a plan, react it, observe it, analyze it, reflect on it, and then we stop if we feel, خلاص, we solved the problem. If not, we devise another plan, and so on. So it's a process, as you can see. There are specific and important criteria related to action research. One of them is ownership. And this is how it prepares teachers to be reflective practitioners, actually. Action research belongs to teachers, not researchers. I mean, currently I'm working at the Ministry of Higher Education, and I am also working with school teachers. So sometimes I do collaborative research with English teachers who are teaching in schools here in Oman. So when we go there as a researcher, I always give teachers this, look, we are working together as a researcher and you as teachers. But at the end of the day, you are researching your practice. I'm here to help you to improve your practice. But the ownership of this research is to you as teachers, as a group of teachers working with me. You are working with your students. I'm working with you and your students. But at the end of the day, the ownership is yours. It doesn't belong to researchers. It belongs to you as a teacher, as a practitioner. It's controlled by you because you decide which class to work with, which students are improving, which students are doing less improvement, how can you continue, which stage to stop on. So it belongs to you. Ownership is yours. Even when the research ends, you are the owner of the data, you are the owner of your research, you are the owner of the findings of this research, and how can you distribute this finding or just keep it for yourself or for your school or within your students, or take it beyond that by publishing your research. And we will talk about how to publish. Action research has a focus, and it focuses on improving practice. So as a teacher or as a practitioner, when I am thinking of a problem, I am thinking to improve my own practice, first of all, and my students' learning. It's a structured way of reflection. That's why it encourages and helps teachers to become reflective practitioners. It enables me as a teacher to do structured reflection on my professional action. Because as we have seen the methodology and the model, it's a process, it's a cycle. So we reflect, we plan, we act, we observe, we reflect again, we plan, and so on. So it's a structured reflection. And I decide when to stop, when I feel happy. So in action research, as in any other type of research, you start with choosing to investigate an idea related to a problem that you face. This is normal in any research. You start developing your research proposal, but there is something very unique, very special in action research, which is not in other types of research. You have an intervention, and you intervene to solve the problem. And you observe this intervention, and you see, is it really working? Is it really improving my practice? It's really improving my students' learning? And you have another intervention, and so on. Now, in the literature, there is lots of debate that action research is very similar to the Cosey experimental designs, where in Cosey experimental designs, researchers have a control group and a trial group, and they try something on their students and see if it works. And according to the trial group, they decide then to disseminate the findings and try it with other groups or with the whole students or not. In action research, we don't do that because it's against the ethical parts of research. In action research, we are dealing with students. We don't deal with students that we put them in trial groups and control groups. No, we deal with all of them together. So when we have an intervention, we try it with all the students. Let's say I have a class of 30 students, I try it with the 30 students. It's unethical in action research that I take a group of students, I do an intervention with them, I try out a new way or 3 or 4 or 10 new ways of teaching them reading or writing or whatever skill. And I deny the other group from the benefits. And according the debate in the literature in action research, how different it is from Cosey experimental design, because we cannot put students in control groups and trial groups. It's their right to be treated the same. And also the debate in the literature is that if I take a group of students and in my class, let's say my class is 30 students, and I took 10 of those students as a trial group, and in action research, and I give them this new way of teaching reading, critical reading, and another way, and another way, and for a whole month or 2 months or 3 months, I am trying new ways with them. Of course, they will improve compared to the other group, which I didn't, the control group, which I didn't try any way with them, and they are used with the traditional ways. And this is the debate in the literature. And according to the action research, it's unethical if I treat those students in a way that I do not treat the other students. In CUSE experimental designs, because we are having those kinds of variables and we are seeing if those we are working on is working or not. But in action research, no, we treat all the students in the same way. It is similar with CUSE experimental designs that it has an intervention. But the intervention is for all the students. We observe all the students, we reflect on all the students, and we see if all the students benefit or not. If they do not benefit, we might try other ways with the other students. Let's say if I have outstanding students who benefit from this first round of my action research, from the first technique, there are some medium students who need 2 or 3 more strategies to improve. And there are the slow learners who need 5 ways maybe. So in action research, we have an intervention. That's why it's different from other types of research, similar to CUSE experimental design, but different from CUSE experimental design that we do not have a control group, trial group. We have the intervention for all the students, and we treat all of them in the same way, and we see how it works with the different ability students, the mixed abilities that we have in our classes, the outstanding, the average, and the slow learners. Now, when we develop our action research proposals, there are important things that we have to take into consideration. And it is similar to when we have any other types of research. Now I will go to a form. I want you just to let me know if the form opens with you or not, please. I will check in the chat box, because we will explain the action research form. Where is the chat box? Okay. Stand. We can't go to the chat box. Is the form opening? Is it clear?
Ma'am, it's blurred, ma'am. The letters are blurred.
What?
We are unable to make out what is there.
You can't see the.
Yes, ma'am, it is blurry. We are unable to make out what is there on the right.
Mm-hmm.
And the link is not there, ma'am.
What?
இல்ல இது அவங்களோட
The
ஸ்லைட்
link, ma'am. The link to it.
Maybe I will open it from. Okay, let me download it.
Ma'am, if you can type it out in the chat box, that should be fine.
No, I can't type it because they need to see it, because we will go through it step by step. Just give me a minute. I will open it. I think I will open it from the Word, and let's see if it's clear or not. Okay, can you see it now?
It is still unclear, ma'am.
Let me stop sharing and only share the Word document.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's share the Word document alone, and let me. Can you see it now?
Yes, ma'am. We can see it now.
Okay, good. So as you can see, this is.
Sorry for the interruption. Can you please zoom in a little?
What?
Can you please zoom in a little, ma'am?
Enlarge it?
Yes, ma'am. Zoom. Yeah, enlarge.
I'm trying. Okay. Just a moment. Is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am, it is clear, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So this is one of the action research plans that I prepared for one of the action research that I did. This was the topic, the title of research, giving feedback to students' written work in English, developing my practice as a newly qualified lecturer, and improving my students' writing skill. This was like maybe 2 or 3 years back when I was teaching a GFP class, General Foundation program class. And I noticed that when I was in the writing classes, those students, I was giving them feedback, but they were not improving in their writing from the first piece of writing to the second piece of writing, first draft, second draft, third draft. The same problem was going on there. So I decided to do a research on that problem that I was facing. And when I observed the problem, first of all, I was thinking that the problem was with the students' writing, but I discovered that the problem was with the feedback I was giving. And I wanted to improve my own practice on giving feedback, which can help in developing my students' writing skill. And this was my main research question. So we start changing the topic into a main research question. How can I develop my ability as a lecturer to give effective written feedback to improve my GFP, General Foundation Program students' writing in English? Okay, and these are the specific research questions that were developed from the main research question. And notice the highlighted ones. How effective are the ways I use to give written feedback to my GFP students' written work in English? So notice here, first of all, I started investigating the problem. What is the problem that with the ways I use? I used to use previous ways, which were like, for example, I collect students' pieces of writing. When I mark those drafts, I give them students written feedback on their work. So first of all, I started with analyzing the feedback that I was giving. Are those effective or not? And analyzing them by comparing students' first draft before I give them the feedback, and second draft after I give the feedback. And the second question was, why do some of my students not improve in their writing skill? So here I was investigating the reasons for the problem. I am giving feedback, so where is the problem exactly? Why they are not improving with the kind of feedback I'm giving? And my actual research started from here. So the first two questions are investigating the problem, what is it exactly, and the reasons for the problem. And this is the specificness, the uniqueness of action research. First of all, and it is similar to other types of research in this way, you cannot jump to find solutions without actually investigating what is the problem exactly, without diagnosing the problem. So I started with diagnosing the problem. What is the problem with the feedback that I give? And what are the reasons why their writing is not improving, although I'm giving them feedback? So the action research intervention starts from here. How can I improve my ways of giving written feedback to help my students improve their writing? So I focused on these strategies, the solutions. What is the solution? What strategies I can use? And I will show you the intervention plan, don't worry. So here I start with the action research intervention, the strategies to be used to solve the problem. And here is the difference from action research and other types of research. In other types of research, you investigate the problem, you consult the literature, you can write recommendations. But here, no, you have an intervention that you plan it, you act it with your students, and you see its effects. You reflect on it. Is it working or not working? And again, seeing the effectiveness of your solution, your strategies, which strategy was more effective in helping my students to improve in their writing. So here I investigate how effective was the solution, my strategies. Back to the main research question. In action research, we try to split this question into the what is the problem, reasons for the problem. So I am here diagnosing the problem and its reasons to find the right solutions. Without having the diagnosis at questions 1 and 2, I will not be able to find the right solutions. But by diagnosing the problems, I discovered things like, for example, I was giving lots of feedback, constructive feedback, but it was too much for students to understand. I was giving so many feedback at the same time. And that's why when I started the solutions, I started splitting my feedback, going into stages, starting with giving feedback on this, moving to giving feedback on this, and so on, without having the diagnosis with questions 1 and 2. What is the problem? Reasons for it. I cannot plan the right solutions for the problem. It's like a doctor. He or she cannot give you the right cure for your healthy problem without actually diagnosing what is the problem exactly and having those examinations and blah, 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 blah. So it's the same here. We investigate what the problem is, reasons for it, find the solutions by consulting the literature, experts, colleagues, and so on. And then we see the effectiveness of this solution. Okay, sorry. Okay, and then we start the data collection. And in action research, how it helps you to become a reflective practitioner. Journal and diaries are key ways that teachers use to record their observations, thoughts, and decisions. And it's one of the ways that I used in this research. Observation and field notes to record my practice and my students, how they are reacting to my intervention. Interviews with my students to explore their reaction to the new strategies used in giving feedback. And part of the observation and field notes, I was looking at their pieces of writing. Okay, these are the proposed participants. They were a GFP summer class, 12 male students and 20 female. They were a total of 33 students. So as I said before, I treated all of them with the same solutions. Yes, some of them benefited quicker, some of them took a longer time. The benefit at the end of the day was not the same for all. Some of them highly benefited, some of them partially benefited, but at the end of the day, I treated all of them the same way. I didn't deny some from that, and this is important in action research. When and how we are going to collect data, observation and field notes to establish evidence of my current practice. I did 2 classroom observations in July to investigate the problem, and that helped me in questions 1 and 2, if you remember. What is the problem? Reasons for it. I did a series of lesson planning, observation, note-taking, looking at students' pieces of writing to develop the ways I give written feedback to my students. And that went into 2 months, July and August. And I took a total of 4 observations, and it helped me in question 3, what strategies I can use, where I planned my first strategy, acted out, observed it, collected data and reflection on it, planned my second intervention or way, and so on. Then I did a focus group interview with 6 students from different levels, 2 from each level, to explore their attitudes towards the change I made to my previous ways of giving feedback to answer question 4. So I interviewed 2 outstanding students, 2 average, and 2 slow learners from the 33 students. I think. And I have here a similar plan if you would like to try out this proposal. Okay, done with this proposal, I will go back to my presentation. Sorry for that. I think it should be. Okay, so the good thing about the action research proposal is you plan it like when you plan for your treasure hunt. The best way you plan it, the easier your journey will be to find the solutions for your problem and to find the treasure you are looking for. Okay, so okay. This is the intervention plan. Again, now we will go to this way, and I think it will not open, but I will download it and I will open it again from, we'll be having the same problem. And the intervention plan will give you details on how can you intervene, how can you plan your action research. Just a moment, I'm downloading it and I will open it for you. Okay, good. Open file. Intervention. Okay, where are we? Stop sharing. Now we will share the new window. Okay. Is it clear? Kindly let me know if. No, it's not this one.
Ma'am, yes, ma'am, we are able to see, but just like last time, can you enlarge a little, ma'am?
Yeah, okay, just a minute. I think I have to open the other file. Where is it? It's this one, I think. Is it this one or this one? I think it's this one. Okay.
And we can see it clearly, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I will just enlarge it a little bit. Maybe we need a little bit less. Okay, good. I think now it's okay. Okay, so this is my intervention plan. An action research intervention plan is the plan followed by the researcher to try to investigate his or her research problem. The researcher can apply a number of strategies as part of his or her action research intervention to try to solve the problem. So you have a detailed plan here of your intervention only, not the normal proposal that we do for any research, and not only that proposal that I show you in a minute. So I started writing my detailed intervention plan. And if you look here at the titles, action research plan, data duration, data collection tool, details. Okay. Observing the problem, and this is question 1 and 2, if you remember in my proposal. What is the problem, reasons for the problem? Observing the problem and doing the literature review, and I decided to do that in 2 weeks. I did 2 lessons of observation and note-taking, 8th July and 14th July, and I wrote my reflections, identifying issues related to understanding my written feedback, focusing on specific students, six students in each lesson. And this is the important thing, because you are collecting very detailed data. So you cannot say, I will observe the 30 students at the same time. So in each lesson, I was focusing on 6 students from each level 2. And when I was giving the feedback, I was observing those students, how they were reacting to my feedback, how they were making the change while they were writing during the class, and so on. And from the literature, I wrote some strategies that can help me develop my ways of giving feedback. Okay, this is for number 1. The second one is my action plan started from here. Strategies that I use to solve the problem. And note that planning these strategies in details, I wrote plans, details of plans in my lecture plan. I wrote details of those strategies. So this is strategy number 1. Describe at least one thing the student did well in the piece of writing that I received from students. One of the ways of giving feedback is, instead of giving all the feedback together in one piece of writing, a student's piece of writing, one of the ways that I found from the literature is describe at least one thing the student did well with reference to the success criteria that I used. Okay, focus my feedback on the criteria. Example, this time I will focus only on punctuation and what can make this piece of writing better. So here I gave the student a general comment, only focusing on one thing. From the 6 students that I focused on in that lesson, I chose one thing that the student did well, and I chose one thing, let's say related to punctuation in Ahmed's piece of writing, one thing Ahmed needs to take consideration of. And in terms of another student, let's say Selwa, for example, I chose another thing, maybe not punctuation, something else, coherence, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I focused only on one thing for the student, one thing from the same success criteria, whether the punctuation or the coherence or whatever. I think that the student did well. and the things that students need to work on. One thing only. And apply this strategy between 18 to 22 July. I did observation and note taking. And the end of that week, on the 22nd of July, I wrote my reflective journal focusing on how the strategy was working. Student action towards the given feedback. Now, Ahmed focused his writing only on improving his punctuation. Even if he has, let's say, on punctuation, coherence, blah, 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 blah. But this time, Ahmed is focusing only on punctuation because my feedback was on punctuation. And I provided specific example of the change in students' writing based on the feedback that I give on Ahmed's punctuation, for example. Okay, sorry for that. Then I move to strategy 2, suggest the students' immediate next step. Suggest for the students the immediate next step. Select this time 1 or 2, whatever is doable, is the next draft on the writing piece, things that the students can do next. So here I select 1 thing or 2 things that you need to do this to improve your, and you need to do this to improve your. So now I started becoming more focused, more specific, and focusing on 2 things that the students need to work on in his piece of writing. I applied this strategy in another week from 25th to 29th July. I observed and took notes. On the 29th of July, I wrote my reflective journal, focusing again on specific focusing on how the strategy is working, students' action towards the given feedback, and being focused, providing specific examples of change in students' writing. Now here, after giving the second strategy and collecting students' pieces of work, the 6 students, I was seeing, comparing according to the feedback that I gave, are there any change in the students' writing or not? Any more change in Ahmed or whomever student I chose this time, piece of writing or not? Providing examples. Yes, Ahmed was writing, having lots of problems with his punctuation in this and this and this. This time, he has no problems in this, within this punctuation. He still needs to work on this, and so on. And then I moved to strategy number 3, which was collecting students' second draft, seeing how they responded to the feedback that I gave last time, provide examples of some sentences this time to explain the feedback. And I applied this between 1st to 15th July, 1st to 5th July, 1 week, observed and was taking notes, and wrote my reflective journal again, providing specific details of changes students' writing. Then I moved to strategy 4, concern immediate follow-up, give students time to immediately work on the change. Now, I worked with each group of students each week, step by step, through a strategy, gave students the chance to work on their first draft, second draft, third draft. And with each student, I was working with the problems, or we could say the things that they have serious problems with. Because if they have problems with everything, we cannot work on everything together. We started gradually with each group of students, with each student specifically, moving from, let's say, from punctuation to sentence structure, to coherence of ideas, and blah, blah, blah. And I write my reflective journal, and then more data collection, my focus group interview with students. I did 4 interviews in total. 1 after applying each strategy. And my focus group were 6 students from the whole class, 6 students who I chose from different levels, to outstanding, to average, to slow learners. I did focus group interview with them 4 times. Interview 1 was on 22nd July, if you remember, after applying the first strategy and collecting details about it and from my observation and journal. Interview 2 was on the 29th of July after applying the second strategy for a whole week. Interview 3 was on 5th of August after applying the third strategy, and interview 4 was on week 4 after applying the last strategy. And then I did my data analysis. I wrote my research report. I proofread, and I submit my research for publication, and it was published, by the way. Okay, so it can be written and published in the same way that you write and publish any piece of writing. And back to our presentation. Okay, so you can publish your research. You can write it in the way that you write any other piece of writing, and you can publish your research in the way that you publish any research. There are specific journals for action research in Scopus, and in those you can find many of them. But you can even publish your research in any educational journal. But specifically, I mean, I published one of my researches in an educational journal, not a specific action research journal, but there are specific action research journals that you can publish on them. So here, through this video, we will have like a summary of our session today. And I want you to watch the video, take notes of any new information that we didn't talk about, because after the video, we will have the discussion. Oops. What happened? Why the video is not?
Teaching is a craft. It's both an art and a science, which is why great teachers always experiment and make tons of mistakes. But how do you know what's actually working? Well, one option is action research. Here you can identify a question, test out a strategy, gather data, and determine if it works. The end result is something dynamic, innovative, and tied directly to your classroom. Action research dissolves the barrier between the participants and the researchers. In other words, the teacher actively participates in the situation while also conducting the research. There are many action research frameworks, but they generally follow a similar process. You start out in phase 1, planning for research. Here you begin with inquiry, where you define a specific research question. It needs to be something that can actually be tested. Next, you conduct a literature review to gain a deeper understanding of the topic. Finally, you move into the design process, where you determine your data methods, consider ethical issues, get the required permissions, create deadlines, and set up the systems. Next, you move into the action phase. This is where you engage in multiple cycles of experimentation and data collection. Your data collection might include qualitative data like observations, artifacts, and interviews, or quantitative data like rubric scores, surveys, or achievement data. Afterward, you move to analysis. You'll often start by organizing the data with charts or graphs and looking for specific trends. You might also discuss it with peers, rewrite in a journal, or create a cluster map before eventually writing out your results. Finally, you have your conclusion. This is where you share your research with the world and reflect on your own practice. This will ultimately lead to newer questions, and the cycle will continue as you refine your path as a better, more creative teacher.
Okay, so we are coming here towards the end of our talk. Just as a reminder that all this process that you are doing through action research, actually, it encourages you to become really a reflective practitioner, because you keep reflecting, acting, planning, reflecting, evaluating, acting, planning, reflecting. So that's why action research is one, I would say, of the victims that is not used a lot actually by teachers. And honestly speaking, here in Oman now we have a very good active movement with classroom teachers. And I'm one of the people working with those English teachers who are teaching in schools, who are teaching primary students, preparatory students or secondary students. How can they do action research to improve their practice? Because it's one of the important, valuable key ways that encourage teachers to improve their practice as teachers. So it helps them through all this way and process of reflection, action, to become really reflective practitioners. And it, of course, contributes to the professionalism in ELT. So that's all about today's session. Here is our final slide. If you have any questions, you are most welcome. Thank you very much for that, and it's a time for questions and discussion. If you have any questions, it's time to answer them.
Ma'am, thank you very much, ma'am, for introducing us to the concepts of action research by talking about Lewis's research model, BACHMAN'S action research cycle, and other concepts which are focusing on constantly improving ourselves to be better teachers of the English language. And through which in turn we can become researchers in ELT. Thanks for reinforcing that action research belongs to teachers and not to researchers, who are the sole practitioners of such professional standards in ELT practices. And you showed us lucid examples to help us plan an action research, and I'm sure we'll all benefit out of it. It was a delight listening to you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome. Any questions or?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now we have the head of the Department of English, Dr. S. Shobana, to brief us with the presentation of the two-day international program as a report. Please.
Hello, good afternoon, Khadija. Just listen to you. A very detailed lecture on how an action research should be done. Nice meeting you online from here, this part of the world. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your heart. And we must acknowledge a big passion for action research. And you're sharing your experience in action research with us. Thank you so much from my end and staff, the staff and students of the Department of English, from our principal. We have all of them acknowledge the presence, your time, and your sharing of your experience in the field. It's fairly a new thing here in our part. In the sense that we've never thought so seriously about a critical action research, I would say, rather a comparative action research. I've heard of and I've seen the methodology taken, methodology which is already available, taken, used, applied, and results shown. And the level of success measured and reported as ELT researchers. Listening to you, we understood that ELT research should be one that is basically comparative, comparing 2-3 strategies and trying to find which works out better. And comparing strategies has worked out at different points of time, especially to test the retention of learning and the impact of learning at a later date. This kind of a study, I don't know, for my age and experience, I've not come across. Maybe my zone of understanding of how researchers are done in ELT is limited. However, it was an eye-opener to me personally and the rest of the audience too, who are chiefly staff here, some of them pursuing their PhD in ELTs, submitted the thesis and they're awaiting by some of them have completed the PhD in ELT. For all of us, it was such an eye-opener in the sense that the whole of your talk drove into your study and your reflection a critical insight, basically a comparative insight. That is what the test of genuinity of the study. Thank you very much, ma'am. That kind of an eye-opener. On behalf of staff and students. Now let me present the report of today's events. The first day's events started yesterday, that's 19th May at 10 a.m. with a prayer rendered by Dr. Ronald Dale, Professor of English. Our department, Bishop People College. Dr. Dhanapal, coordinator, shift 2 of the department, and Dean of Training and Placement, Bishop People College, warmly introduced resource persons, chairpersons, and welcome the participants who joined online for the conference. Later, the concept note was presented by the organizing secretary, Dr. Shobana. And the concept was introduced by me as a theme that would center around the whole topic professionalism in English language teaching as a reality checking exercise and not as just intellectualization. Later, Professor Ali Al-Iza, Professor of Critical Linguistics, Department of Curriculum and Instruction, College of Education, Sultan College University, Sultanate of Oman, gave his address, keynote address on the topic, using research to achieve democratic English language teacher professionalism. And Dr. Ali began his talk by reiterating the important hypothesis of contemporary critical theory that politics is unavoidable in one's life. He made an attempt to express how democracy is influenced by education, economic development, and especially education training, or teacher training. Further moved on to link language with the need for democracy, more language teaching with the need for democracy. It was more language planning, language teaching planning, and democracy that he spoke on. The two key words that would linger in all our minds are democracy and critical thinking. Professor Ali's major theme was critical literacy, and even named it as a theory of ELT research. The first plenary talk was given by the second resource person, Dr. Professor Professor of English, Department of Humanities and the Social Sciences, National Institute of Technology. In his talk, English in the 21st Century, he exposed the influence of opposite technological media that breaches the citadel and enriches the interaction in the class. He highlighted Brennan University's pride and honor for practicing English conversation as something similar to a typical English classroom ambience where the teacher animates the conversation inside the classroom. He underscored the demand on the teacher to be a technology savvy and a creative mind in order to deal with the digital natives. Dr. Vinod provided ample real-time examples and emphasized how the realignment and some hard work is required on the part of the teacher so as to get over the sense of overwhelming anxiety about technology use and come to terms with the challenges of the field, both technology and teaching. The afternoon session yesterday was a parallel based presentation, and I would like to read out some topics of papers that we received. Some of them are information and communication technology in teaching English language as a second language, eliminating the cultural confrontations in the modern classrooms, vocabulary learning strategies for tertiary level students of a medical university, an assessment of English listening and speaking skills of the learners for early immersion model and experimental study, the new trends in digital technology in developing critical thinking skills. Internet means as a means for exciting critical thinking in the classroom. A comparative study of English language acquisition from grammar translation method and direct method. A few more. The role of social media in developing communication skills in English, communication skills in English among ESL learners. Enhancing communication skills through literature and critical thinking. A guided, effective approach to teaching simple present tense in English grammar. So these are the topics on which the papers were presented yesterday in 3 panel sessions, and I'm happy to note from the titles these topics subscribe to the themes that were discussed in the plenary sessions and the keynote address. Majority of the discussions in the papers, as I understand from the title, should be about the challenges of an English teaching setup here in India, especially Tamil Nadu, and how these challenges could be overcome. And some of the papers I could see, they talk about the need for improving critical thinking among students in the English classrooms. The second day of the virtual international conference on professionalism began with a welcome in the morning from Mr. Benedict Paul, Professor, Department of English, which came about. First session was happy and by Dr. V.K. and his National Institute of Technology. She emphasized the importance of sustainability in EMT in the current scenario, which included interdisciplinary concepts, experimental teaching, and uses of tools like infographics, podcasts, blogs, memes, and other such social media aspects. She elaborated on the global competence of closing, extending, and eliminating the boundaries of various factors of discord in order to become better global citizens. She spoke about the practicality of the English classroom and its necessity to connect the outside world with the classroom. The second session was handled by Dr. Lewin, who focused on the decolonization of the mind and decolonization in aspects such as the syllabus, the administering of the syllabus in the class, teaching, and how teaching or learning should take the subjects from the teachers and the learner to a higher order thinking of a democratic output, a voice for the voiceless. In short, how to live as a mind that resists colonization. Many stop. He spoke about the various aspects of Oriental, especially Indian philosophy, which has been overlooked when it comes to the study of literature and language. He also explained how the market of ELT is colonized and where teachers of ES and English as second language, though they have a great demand abroad, their relevance in the educational setup as teachers, especially language, rests much on the way they practice democracy, critical thinking, decolonization through their teaching. He ended the session reflecting on the effects of mind colonization. It is now taken on the minds of the millennials in the name of westernization. We just listened to Khadija Balushi, who was reflecting on how research regarding the teaching of English should be done. She called it a real world research in the sense that that's a research any teacher of English would do, even without a call for an organized or institutionalized research program, like a PhD or postdoctoral fellowship or even a paper. But without being conscious of doing a research, as teachers of English, we bear a personality which makes us be all the time researching about how effective we are as teachers in the classroom. Is how I understood research of ELT to be from the Balushi's speech. And she gave a very detailed account of how this research should be done as an action research and how systematically in an organized manner this can be done. And of course, as I told earlier, a research which should be done by infusing a critical insight into it, whether a particular strategy can work out for a particular group of students or not, only by comparing it with other strategies at various points of time. So we explain at the beginning. So this I would call as a comparative action research or a critical action research, which is the need of the time. So that I understood to be a level far above the kind of field of researches that are going on today, which are done not for the sake of any implementation in the classrooms, but for the sake of the mechanical application of the strategy and showing how much the particular strategy can be successful. Strategy success relies on our lives, is dependent on the strategy to be looked at in comparison with the contrast with the rest of the strategy. The importance of comparison, contrast, and the critical analysis of a method, whether it is employable, whether it is workable, whether it is worth using in a particular class, particular group of students, was the essence of the Khadija Balushi's presentation today. And so we are glad at the end of the day that we listened to, particularly as teachers of English, a series of teacher-centered, rather teaching and teaching management-centered lectures. How education should be planned or managed, how the policies should be planned and administered, and what kind of a personality is demanded of a teacher of English, also a teacher of culture. The challenges a teacher faces and how a teacher should, a teacher of English should look for challenges and classrooms. How a teacher of English should always be a researcher, first and foremost, of their own and his own classes, any level of class, and how a country's economy rests on the field of education, educational policy, and education management. And so I should personally thank every one of the speakers for their own unique contribution. For me, every point that they presented, every theme of every talk looked new. It was because not that it was new, but a theme that we don't dare to talk publicly. The need for democracy, colonization, and the need for decolonization. Neoliberalism and the need for explication of it. Need to revise syllabus in terms of local culture and cultural demands, and how thus education of culture, education of a language can lead to transformation of the social scene as such, and not only the social scene but the economic scene, how education and its policies are related so closely to economics of a nation. Inflation is a result of English education not being in demand, and all those were the basic reflections. So I, on behalf of the students of the department, register my deep gratitude. Each and every one of us who enlightened us from a different part of the world, but how education looks like, especially English education. And deep thanks once again. I register it formally on behalf of the staff, especially of the department. We also take this opportunity to thank our principal, who gave us a very special permission to run the day affair, especially when the college is celebrating its Achievers Day today. A person was never said at home, whatever the department takes up to do. Whatever any staff of the department takes up to do, what and how I will put it. It's because he's a person who always looks forward to excellence happening on the part of not just the department as a whole, the part of each and every one of the teachers, whether they're permanent teachers or self-finance teachers. I record to deep thanks to our principal, Dr. Paul Deyavar. A profound thanks to Dr. Alagappa Moses, profound thanks to be with us. An environmentalist by nature, who chose to speak about professionalism is the demand of the day, be it the environment or English teaching. I thank them both, teammates, because they are senior professors of this college, great source of inspiration and motivation. I thank at this juncture Dr. Suresh Reddick, the head of the department, and Dean of Research and Development, and Dr. Dhanappa, the Dean of Research, Dean of Teaching and Training and Placement, and the coordinator of Shift 2 of the department, for their support and sustained efforts in helping me run any such an academic affair. Thank you very much, Dr. Suresh. My deep thanks to the members of the organizing committee. I would like to name a few of them, Dr. Srigaran and Mr. Yorko, who initiated the whole process by helping me to create links, print out invitations, and distribute them too. And so, many thanks to both of them. My thanks to Dr. Abram Selvakumar, Mr. Belvin, who were in charge of continue to be taking care of scrutinizing the research papers. Dr. Jabba Isaac Samuel deserves big thanks because he's the one to look into the payment details and consolidate them. State Nivedita is leading them. Alex Rajkumar Paul, Dr. Azari Agarwal, Dr. Prem Kumar, Dr. Rajan, Dr. Aarti Priya, Dr. Ronald David, Dr. Suresh Kumar, Dr. Ruth, and Suda Francia, Dr. Melvin, all of them deserve a big hand of thanks because of they're taking the job that was given to them, nothing in particular, but each of them, every one of them was looking into every one of the works, and I thank them deeply. I thank Dr. Annie, Professor Rosalind, Dr. Newton Raja, and each and every one of the staff members. And thank the staff of the shift to the evening section of the college. Found their time to be here despite their class schedules and try to be a part of the sessions. My sincere thanks to the two student MCs who are present here, Ms. Alithia Sarah, Ms. Aishwarya, who with their natural flair for language and very natural accent were able to conduct the session in a very smooth manner. I should be paying the duty. I don't thank Vimala, the typist of the department. But she was the one who typed out the names and other details for the technical sessions and helped out with all the support work. Thank you very much, Ms. Vimala. And Mr. Suresh, Mr. Murugesan, and Mr. Raja, the attenders also. There's a big thanks from all of us, staff, the department for a running about, doing every help that was necessary for running the program. So thank you, one and all. Thank you very much for your presence.
Post the feedback and
Thank you so much, ma'am. Participants, the feedback they have been posted